according to the Daily Mail, which, by the way, is doing a great job of reporting on the Obama scandals. The Brits do a better job than most of the mainstream big lib papers in this country. Listen to this. Documents IRS letters harassing conservative groups came from Washington, D.C. headquarters and from California offices, despite Inspector General's focus on Cincinnati employees. Tax agency has admitted targeting Tea Party groups and other conservative organizations for special politically motivated scrutiny. IRS Inspector General focused on wrongdoing in Cincinnati, Ohio office and ignored abusive letters coming from other cities. Mail Online, the Daily Mail, found letters from IRS's Washington, D.C. headquarters and from IRS offices in 2 Southern California cities. Yeah, this is much, much, much broader than one specialist in Cincinnati, Ohio. I think that'll become obvious. So they're in full cover-up mode, folks. That's why we need a special prosecutor. That's why we need this done properly. And we need to keep calling for one. I'll be the broken record that does it. I've been doing it, what's today, Wednesday, for 3 days now. And then there's this from the Investors Business Daily. Senate Democrats, including supporters of the Disclose Act, provided the names of groups they wanted targeted in a taxpayer-funded witch hunt overseen by an IRS employee and Obama campaign donor. You hear this? Using the Citizens United case as a pretext, this Carl Levin, I told you yesterday, is a despicable slimeball. He's a very powerful senator, chairman of a very powerful investigative committee, but he's a slimeball. Got that, Carl? Using the Citizens United case as a pretext, retiring Senator, radical leftist Carl Levin of Michigan, on July 27, 2012, wrote IRS Commissioner Douglas Shulman to investigate 12 conservative groups he accused of violating their tax-exempt status and engaging in politically coordinated activity. This is why we need a special prosecutor, to drag this senator's fat butt before a grand jury and question him. Well, the speech and debate clause, that doesn't apply to potential criminal conduct. Abuse of office, abuse of power. The group's Carl Levin, Democrat, senator, asked to be targeted for special scrutiny were Crossroads grassroots policy strategies, no doubt one of Rove's groups, Priorities USA, Americans Elect, American Action Network, Americans for Prosperity, a wonderful group, American Future Fund, Americans for Tax Reform, these are all conservative groups. 60 Plus Association, Patriot Majority USA, Club for Growth, Citizens for a Working America, Inc., and Susan B. Anthony. I'll tell you what, Carl Levin, you call me up there to testify. It'll be your worst hearing ever. I can promise you that. And you'll put me under oath as you do all witnesses, and I will point to you and say, Senator, now that I'm under oath, how about you? Why don't you go under oath too? What are you going to do, hold me in contempt? Well, I hold you in contempt. What do you think about that? Here we have a United States Senator. I told you, folks, they did this in the 1990s. We exposed it then, and they're doing it again. Nothing gets fixed. Carl Levin targeting groups that he doesn't like, urging the IRS to investigate them. McCarthyism. No, it's Carl Levinism. Investors Business Daily continues. In the Citizens United decision, the Supreme Court held that corporations and unions can spend unlimited amount. Okay. This infuriated Democrats. They hate this decision because it supports free speech in campaigns. Infuriated Democrats, and particularly Obama, who subsequently lectured a captive audience of Supreme Court justices during the State of the Union speech. Carl Levin is a prominent supporter of the so-called Disclose Act. Remember this? Which would require the disclosure of corporate donors to tax-exempt groups. He was an original co-sponsor of the legislation. It does more than that. It's a disgrace. It's intended to identify people who are making contributions so people can show up on their doorstep and campaign against them, harass them and their businesses. Now, here's the problem. Levin chairs the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. This is like, they had the Un-Americans subcommittee. This is the committee Levin has to investigate real Americans. Levin chairs this Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations and says the subcommittee, his committee, will be investigating the IRS targeting conservative groups, something he asked it to do. So in other words, Levin's going to be investigating himself. But of course he won't. This man's a fraud. He's diabolical. He will use this committee and twist and turn the words and the whole focus. Democratic Senators Gene Shaheen of New Hampshire, Tom Udall of New Mexico, and Al Franken of Minnesota sent a similar letter to Schulman, the head of the IRS, in February 2012, asking the IRS to investigate tax-exempt groups they believe were engaged in political activities. So did retiring Senator Max Baucus in 2010, the House Democrats in 2012, and on and on. So the Democrats have been pushing for political audits for the last few years, as they did in the 1990s. This Holly Paz, remember earlier in the show I said she was a big donor to Obama? She said in June 2012 she is the director of the IRS Rulings and Agreements Division. She said in her 2012 letter the agency would make it a priority to investigate the tax-exempt status of political nonprofits. And so Obama feigns innocence. I didn't know anything about this. The Democrats didn't know anything about this. But now we're going to get to the bottom of it. But the big dummy, Harry Reid, kind of let the cat out of the bag, didn't he? We've played the audio. Yeah, we got to get to the bottom of these political groups that are heavily funded by millionaires and billionaires, as he and Obama and the other leftists in the conga line of political hacks are getting all kinds of money from millionaires and billionaires.